much for joining us and welcome to our Monday edition of Daily Talk. What is going on Temple Mount in Jerusalem these days? How does it correlate to the Trump peace plan and to the coronavirus pandemic? Former Knesset Member Yehuda Glick will join me shortly, and together we'll try to elaborate these issues that are so crucial to the security of Israel. We'll also have the usual news updates and commentary, so don't go anywhere because we are just about to begin. Well, Yehuda Glick is a very special person. Though his political views are considered strict right-wing, and his activity for expanding Jewish access to the Holy Temple Mount has almost cost him his life, I've seen him interacting with groups of all ages, religions, and political views, and his ability to bridge over and explain himself to the other side is simply extraordinary. Mr. Glick, how are you doing these days?
Shalom, Zohar, and first of all, I want to take the opportunity to give my wonderful congratulations to Newsrael. My first time I'm speaking at Newsrael, but I've been following, and I think it's a wonderful thing, and I call everybody join, download the application, and really become part of it because it's a wonderful thing. You're getting news, live feed, 24/7 from Israel. And to your question, together with the whole entire world, today we're all united. We should be united around God, but right now we're united fighting the coronavirus. I'm sure we have a lot to learn from it, majorly to learn what it means not to be a servant, a slave of routine, and to know how to be able to get used to, be flexible, to get used to worshiping God in different ways, to getting to be more involved in our families and our personal issues at home is something we should also once in a while introduce to our lives. But as you said, at the same time, we are looking to the future. And thank God, the best way to look to the future is to take into consideration and to look back for a second at the past. And the past 72 years, in this state of Israel, we have seen the hand of God pulling the way, guiding the way, directing the way. And I can say that I'm sure that we are going to continue. The redemption process is going to continue. And all the believers in the Bible from around the world will be able to continue in seeing the fulfillment of prophecy here in the Holy Land in Israel and definitely in the city of Jerusalem.
You know, I'm going to take a short detour because I want to talk about Temple Mount, but you've been an inspiration to many Israelis, I can say that for sure. And you have a family of how many children?
We have, thank God, I have 8 children and 9 grandchildren. Or thank God, and my wife has 4 children. Baruch Hashem, we are blessed by God. We have so many children.
And you all live still in Othniel, in the land of Judea?
Actually, as you know, 2.5 years ago, I became a widower, and a year and a half ago, year and 2 months ago, and 15 days ago, I remarried. And ever since I remarried, I've been living in Jerusalem.
Well, God bless you and your children and your new wife. And I want to talk to you about Temple Mount. How is the access to Temple Mount done during these Corona days?
First of all, I want to remind ourselves that Temple Mount is the foundation of faith for all believers in God. It's the foundation of faith according to the Bible, and billions of believers in God are all see that as the cornerstone, the foundation stone of faith. And therefore, in the past few years, we've seen a major change where just a few years ago, it was exclusively Muslim Jews and non-Jews who were non-Muslims were not allowed to pray freely, were not allowed to walk around freely, and there was a feeling of violence. In the last few years, led by the present Israeli government, there's been a major change. And today, visitors on Temple Mount, the feeling is still much, much more peaceful. Still, we have a lot to change. It's still not allowing us to walk into Temple Mount with Bibles and do something that I really expect the whole world to call up and say, that demand to change this. but that's the process. Now, in the past 2 months, just like many places around the world, the Temple Mount has been closed, and you have to understand it's not so simple. We're talking about the month of Ramadan, where usually every single day there were hundreds and thousands of Muslims on Temple Mount, and the Israeli government knew how to correspond with the Muslims and explain to them the situation, and the Temple Mount has been closed for visitors of all kinds for the past few months, for the past month and a half.
Completely, for any religion.
But what right now, we're just like all the other places are opening gradually, with taking the precautions needed. I think the time has come to call upon the Israeli government. The time has come to reopen the Temple Mount, and we can go up in small groups, making sure to preserve the margin of 6 feet, of 2 meters between each other. It's something that can be done, and it's something that should be done as soon as possible, because there should be a message that houses of prayer, and definitely the Temple Mount, and definitely under Jewish Israeli sovereignty, should be open in these days, just like schools and supermarkets that are starting to open up, and stores and businesses, which I'm very happy they're opening up. And I want to tell you, I do want to point out this point, just like all those are opening up, the Temple Mount should be opened up also as well. And I think we should really take the time, because now is also the time to pray to God. We went through a major crisis. It was a health crisis, and no less, it was a major crisis on some people's financial day-to-day life. And we are all required to open our heart and to care about those who are around us, and to care about society, and to find out and inquire who is in need, who of our neighbors is suffering and needs a little bit of a help, and to open our heart, and even to open our pockets. And that's exactly what we should be doing these days. And definitely we should be calling out for prayer. And the Temple Mount is the house of prayer for all nations. This is where we should be praying for all nations. And this is where we should be calling out to God and saying to God, we gone through the crisis, and we understand, and we need your guidance, God, to tell us how to do it. And this is the message. And my organization, the Shalom Jerusalem Foundation, shalomjerusalem.org, is guiding, is leading prayers to the Temple Mount for all over the world. People go into our website every single day in shalomjerusalem.org, leave prayer requests. And I go to face the Temple Mount when I can, and I go on the Temple Mount when I can to pray, because this is the time to reconnect to God and to understand that new times, but in the new times, we are going to ask God to guide us, that we should be able to really give the aid needed to all those who are in need.
Have the police been restricting your personal access to Temple Mount, or was it only at the time when you were an active Knesset member at the time?
Look, in the past, the police referred to all Jews who were sending Temple Mount as a nuisance, and they didn't understand why we were coming. Thank God there's been a major change in the past few years. And
definitely. And in the numbers of Jews visiting and going up to the Temple Mount.
The number of tourists.
Jews, of course.
Not talking about 2020, because 2020, the past 2 months and a half, places closed. But before that, we saw a major change. People from all over the world, Jews, Christians, Muslims, the numbers are growing, and that's the way it should be. Because it should be the house of prayer for all nations. And that's what we're doing. In the Shalom Jerusalem Foundation, we're trying to get the world connected to the idea that the Temple Mount should be the world center of peace, the world center of Torah, and the world center of prayer, and the world center of humanity. And that's the whole concept of Shalom Jerusalem. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem means pray that the entire world should be blessed with the Jerusalemite peace and with the good coming out of Jerusalem.
Yeah, and I have to say, perhaps not all of our viewers have been to Temple Mount, but you don't even have to be religious in order to feel something so different when you go up there. It is a spiritual experience, even if you're not religious. It's amazing.
I'm calling all those who haven't been here to Israel yet, come to Israel. If you haven't been to Jerusalem, come to Jerusalem. And if you haven't been to the Temple Mount, you must come to the Temple Mount. But you can connect to the Temple Mount. You can connect. There are many organizations, including ourselves, shalomjerusalem.org. Connect to the Temple Mount. It's very important. connect to Temple Mount, because this is what should unite us. What should unite us is not the coronavirus, but it's the crown of God, the crowning of the calling of the kingdom of God, where God says the Temple Mount is the place where he chose to rest his divine presence eternally. Way back from the time of Abraham, with the king of Shalem, Malki Tzedek, the king of justice, and with Abraham teaching us the idea of being ready. Here I am, Hineni, being ready to devote yourself to God. This is the place. The source of the whole thing is Temple Mount. So guys, it's the time that the world connects, because Zionism is a Jewish national movement, but it's also a universal movement. It's a message to the world. We established the state of Israel to be a blessing to all nations, and we want to do that. And we are. Israel is flourishing in every field. Right now we're going through a crisis, but in general, Israel is a flourishing state, and it's a blessing to all over. Anybody who's connecting with Israel is blessed. So I'm telling you, everybody, connect to Israel, connect to Jerusalem, connect to the Temple Mount, connect to Shalom Jerusalem, and that's going to bring so much the process of redemption to the entire world.
Okay, and from Temple Mount to the whole land of Israel, I want to ask you, what do you think about the relationship, first of all, about the relationship between the United States and Israel nowadays? And in light of that, what do you think about the Trump peace plan?
So first of all, I want to point out, and it's very important to remember, because we're called Jews, comes from the word in Hebrew Yehudi, comes from the word Todah, thanks. Israel, from day one, as our best ally, under any administration, no matter who it was, Israel, our best ally was the United States of America. From the first moments of the state of Israel till today, sometimes there were arguments, but our biggest ally, and we have to pay gratitude to them. In the past few years, President Donald Trump has been way beyond everything. I say it's not him, it's God pulling his strings. And it's the fact that he recognized Jerusalem, it's obvious. Anybody who opens the Bible, you see 669 times Jerusalem is mentioned in the Bible as the house of God, part of the Jewish state. So recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of the state of Israel and the capital of faith in the world is something that's obvious. But Donald Trump did that. Recognizing the fact that anti-Semitism is something that's illegitimate, that's number two. Recognizing the fact that the Golan Heights is part of Israel, that's number three. And today we see Donald Trump's century deal of the century. It's not perfect. There are certain things that I would prefer. But if I would look back just a few years ago and see that a president of the strongest country in the world, recognizing the fact that Israel has rights to all over the state of Israel, including Judea and Samaria, the foundation of our historical rights, and to the fact that we will be able in the near future to establish sovereignty and to implement the Jewish law all over Judea and Samaria. This is a major thing. I want to remind you, in 1947, when the United Nations announced the partition agreement, we didn't have everything in our hands. The Arabs said no, and we said yes, even though we didn't like it. And look where the Arabs are today, and look where we are today.
And we were offered much less than what Israel became to be, of course.
We're offered much less than what in the international world decided 100 years ago in San Remo. We were offered much less than what we deserved. Right. But our basic
our peaceful ways of thinking brought us to agree to whatever was given, whatever was on the table.
If you think everything or nothing, you're going to stay with nothing. We believe in evolution, not in revolution. Things happen step by step. We see it, by the way, it's not just from today. You open the Bible, you see in the book of Joshua captured and captured and captured. But you look in the book of Judges, you see that wherever we didn't capture it, you had to work. You can't capture the whole thing in one day. It's a process, and it's a process that's built on settling. So wherever we settled, and we've made a major change in the past 50 years, Israelis have settled all over Judea and Samaria. It's a saying to God, we are ready to establish the Jewish state all over Judea and Samaria, and we will do it. And I think if Donald Trump was chosen by God to be the one who will lead this process, it will be him. If it will be the next president, it will be the next president. Right now, I think we have to look positively at the deal, and we have to take the good of it, try to bring it to the next step, and from there we'll continue on. And I think just like Joshua began entering Israel from the Jordan Valley, I think the idea of recognizing the Jordan Valley first is something, again, you see the Bible coming and becoming a live book. It's so exciting. It's so exciting to see it happen, to see the Bible becoming just like, people don't know that just 100 years ago, nobody in the world spoke Hebrew as a spoken language, and we revived the language. We are reviving the Bible. The Bible is becoming a living book. It's a footstep. It's a roadmap to our life here in Israel. And so, guys, don't try to beat us. Join us, and you'll see you will be blessed as well. And I'm saying again, come and join the Shalom Jerusalem Foundation. Come and join the wonderful redemption process that Israel is going through, and you'll see that we're reaching Zionism next generation. We're reaching out to the next level in Zionism, where Zionism becomes a universal blessing to the world.
Well, and on that tone, Yehuda Glick, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for your time.
Shalom and blessings from Jerusalem, and really blessings and prayers for all those who are in need. Shalom from Jerusalem.